Savvy Business Radio, home to over 500,000 listeners per month, and runs in syndication on 8 AM/FM stations nationwide, including iHeartRadio and 6 podcasting platforms. To find out about our paid sponsorship opportunities or to become a guest and find out how we can help you get your message out in a bigger way, call 732-474-7375 or email Christina at savvybusinessradio.com.
Welcome to Savvy Business Radio. This is your host, Christina Nichman. Each week on Savvy, we support individuals and successful individuals in sharing their expertise, knowledge, tips, and stories with the world. Our first guest today is Fran Banting, international best-selling author, leadership and performance consultant, and results expert. Fran is the author of the best-selling book, Your Life as a Movie, Sculpting and Producing Your Dreams into Reality. Find out more at franbanting.com. Our second guest is Saul Simon, a certified financial planner for over 30 years. Saul specializes in working with individuals and business owners to develop strategic financial plans that help them reach their financial and family objectives. Find out more at saulsimon.com. Hi, Fran. Welcome to Savvy Business Radio. How are you today?
I'm great, Christina. How are you?
I'm doing fabulous. I'm so grateful to have you out here. We spoke several months ago. It's been a twisty couple of months for me here. Got sick. My mom passed, and you were so gracious to reschedule a couple times for me. Thank you so much, Fran. But you're doing amazing work. You've written an international best-selling book called Your Life as a Movie, and you are a leadership and performance consultant, which I know a lot of my business owners and listeners will relate to, being a lot of them are women and coaches. So before we head on to going deeply into our discussion today in limiting beliefs, share with our audience a little bit about what brought you to becoming a leadership and performance consultant.
Well, thank you again, Christina. I'm really excited to be talking with you today. Well, I have 25 years where I was working in the corporate world. And in that time, I focused on sales and marketing. And with marketing, you learn about people and what makes them tick. Because in sales, you want them to buy from you. And it was during that time that I was working with some phenomenal salespeople. And I started studying them and at the same time studying personalities and people. And as I was going along, the things that I discovered, I got to the point that, everybody needs to know this. Why don't more people know this? And when you'd see a room full of salespeople and they all have the same skills, they all have the same information, why was it that one or two of them were making all the sales and the rest were so discouraged and frustrated? And so I began studying about the mind and what makes us work. And after doing that for about 10 years, I decided to go out on my own and I started my own consulting business. And now I help those salespeople and those entrepreneurs to get the results, they've been sitting back watching other people get.
Yeah, and it's so pertinent because without sales, you don't have a business, unfortunately. So it's imperative. Now, you are a student of Bob Proctor, correct?
Yes, I am. In my studies, that's what I did. I actually flew to Toronto. I made it a goal to meet Bob Proctor because it was his philosophy that I was studying, the Think and Grow Rich from Napoleon Hill. And so I spent a lot of time with Bob. I was going back to Toronto 3 or 4 times a year. And I sat with him and I had dinner with him in his home and we talked about a lot of things and he taught me so many things. He's a wonderful mentor for me and I continue to teach his philosophy.
And you said something very important prior to that when you first started your story here, and that was that you wondered, how is it that some business owners or some salespeople just rock it out of the house and make it so easy and are able to sell while others with the same skill set are not? What have you discovered are some of the reasons or factors for that?
Well, it started when you look at somebody selling a product, and if I had a product and I was saying to you, hey, Christina, you should buy this, it's really good, you'd probably say, Okay, well, fine. But if I loved the product and I used it and I really believed in it, and I said, Christina, this is what the product did for me, and you'd say, wow, I see it working on you. That's great. You'd probably buy the product.
Yeah.
What we don't understand is that when we're entrepreneurs and commissioned salespeople, we're selling ourselves. So you are now the product. There's 100 salespeople, there's 100 entrepreneurs. Why are the people going to come to you? And it's because you need to believe in the product. But when you're the product, a lot of people don't believe in themselves. They look at other people and they think they can do it. I can't do it. And if you look closely, you'll see clearly that there's a lot of things you don't believe in yourself and you don't have the confidence in yourself. And it's that's holding you back.
Wow. So even if you were to talk to these people, they would probably say, oh, no, I'm an awesome coach. I kick butt. But truly down inside of them, they don't really believe that, is what you're saying.
Well, they may not believe in a characteristic of themselves. I like to use, everything's on social media now. So a lot of people have contact lists. And I had a client the other day who had, 2,000 people and they were about to send an email and they couldn't do it. They were literally paralyzed in fear. And I said, okay, push the button. And they were like, but what if I offend people? What if I'm crossing a boundary, emailing them? And I said, what about the other 1,999 that need to hear your message? If you're going to go through life believing that, you're imposing, then you better get out of sales, because when anybody that's doing a service, especially coaches and people, entrepreneurs love what they do. That's why they're going on their own. They need to share this message. They have the passion. What's holding them back is the fear of, what if this other person doesn't want to hear it? So they need to change that perception to, you need to hear this. I'm going to make it so that you hear it. And that's why you and I are doing this today. It's
yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's interesting what you're saying there, because really what you're saying is, hey, I might make angry or piss off 1% of the population I'm going to send this email to, but really you just made a whole conversation up in your mind. You don't have any idea how people are going to take this. They might all love it, or you may get a couple people who are upset. But it's interesting, because I think what you're saying here is a lot of the stuff we're playing out is really stuff we're making up in our head. We have no real, I would say, maybe facts for it, really.
Absolutely. It's all made up. It's not true. It's all in your mind. And guess what? Those people that don't want to hear your information, they can unsubscribe. And that's great. You don't want them to, they're not ready. It's not that they don't want to hear your information. They're just not ready to hear it. And you have to think of it that way, as, it's a shame they're not going to hear this because they could really use it. But I'm going to focus on these people that really want to hear my message. And then talk to them.
Yeah, and you mentioned something very interesting before, and I had heard about this from a marketer who did something a little outside the box that made some people a little edgy and uncomfortable, but he was trying to prove a point, and that was really that people buy from people that they trust, know, and like, which we've heard before. But what he did is he said, we go out there and we sell our product and say, oh, buy my wonderful shampoo, or buy this, or buy that. And you're just like, great, you think it's wonderful, but I don't see how it's wonderful for me. Now, when you, again, turn it around and say, oh, this is how it changed my life, I use it, I love it, and I can, I have the passion behind it, and you can hear that, well, that makes all the difference. Well, what this marketer did is he went out into the field and he got a whole family together. It was going to play for 6 weeks, a new family moving into a neighborhood. Now they paid quite a bit of money with their marketing company to do this. They actually rented out a house for 6 months in this neighborhood, a kind of nice neighborhood. And they had this whole fake family pretend to live in the neighborhood and make friends with the other neighbors. So they made friends, They had barbecues, they had a housewarming party. People came, brought gifts, and then during that time, they were taking a select few products that they already had pre-established that the family would talk about, like, oh, I love this new makeup. I use it all the time. Look at my face. And da-da-da. But it wasn't done in a way that was like, look at this, buy it. It was done from, this is me using it on a daily basis and getting benefit from it. And they found that there was a 90% increase in people wanting to buy the product and sell it and have their friends buy it just by word of mouth. And I found that I found that whole research very interesting, because the idea that of people trying it, your friends trying it, and that being the reason you want to buy it being so compelling, more than this whole list of features of why it's wonderful and you should get it.
It's so true. And the people that were probably acting as that family were probably professional actors. And because it's that they had to believe in the product themselves before they could go out. They had to believe they were that family before they could pretend to be that family.
Yeah.
So, it's funny that you should bring that up, because that's how I wrote my book. Because actors, they have to envision themselves as another person, and they sort of transform into that person. Yeah. And how good they do is you can tell by how much we believe their performance.
Yeah.
Do I believe that you're this person, or you're off. I don't know what it is, but I don't believe you're that person.
Yeah, absolutely. And I said back in high school, there was a girl who is a drama major, and I used to say, but don't you lie for a living? And she's like, well, no, you don't understand. Acting isn't about the art of lying. It's about becoming. So when I am a character, I am not pretending to be them. I am them. I become them. And I've seen that with some masters in whatever it is, dance, art, whatever, that you actually become whatever it is you're putting out there. And so what you're saying now for business owners, how do you take that same thing and become it so much that you believe it? Like, say you're an entrepreneur and you have something wonderful to offer the world. How do you become that product? Not so you're telling people and giving them the features, but that you embody the very essence of how people can be served by this.
Oh, that's perfect that you said that. And embodying the essence is the key. So you could be an accountant, you could be a lawyer. It doesn't matter what business you're in, whatever profession you want to be, you look at it as a part in a play. You want to be, or a movie. That's how I did it in my book. You're going to play this part in your movie. And in your movie, you are, the top billing on this movie. You're the top accountant. You are it. And everybody's coming to see you. And then you start picturing that in your mind. What does that look like? Well, it looks like my calendar's full of people, and I've got a newsletter that's going out, and I have a staff of 10 people in my office. And then you can start feeling it. You start getting excited about it, and you have that picture in your mind. And every day, even if you're the only person in that office, you walk in like you've got a staff of 10, and that there's so many clients out there that you have to service. It's how can I, talk to these people? How can I give them what they need? And you just start performing. And when the belief is there, the performance will follow, and your performance will get better and better and better. And that's how it works in any line of work. You could be a janitor, you could be a teacher. As soon as you believe in yourself, and what's going to happen is your energy is just going to start spilling out of you, because people are just going to walk by you and go, wow, that person's very exciting. I need to talk to them. And you're gonna talk to them as that accountant. You're gonna be saying, I'm here to help you.
Yeah.
And then you put your message out there, and you can't help but grow. You'll be growing.
Yeah. And this is something, Fran, years ago, and this made such an impact on me, and it was surprising. I went to pick up our car that we had dropped off at the where you park cars, parking place. Parking place. And there was a guy who was directing people underneath the car parking place, and he was getting people's car out, and he had such a passion that just oozed from his body. He just loved what he was doing, and you could sense this great passion and love for what he was doing. And he just so impressed me and my partner that my partner pulled down the window and said, "You are just by far the best parking attendant I've ever seen, ever, bar none." And he said, well, my mom always said, if you're going to do anything, you'd be the best at it. If you shovel, ate, you know what, you be the best darn beep you can be.
That's so true.
And I was just like, whoa, that stuck with me. But it was the passion and the joy that he said, you know what, this might be my dream job, but I'm going to do it like I love it and do the best of my ability. And by far, it was like a super packed parking facility, but it's like people enjoyed to park the car there because they were going to get awesome service and have a guy that was truly joyful to do what he did every day.
And look how you remembered him. Yeah. He made an impression on you, and just with his energy, because of his attitude. And when you have the right attitude, people notice you. So if you're an entrepreneur or you're a salesperson or a business owner, what's your attitude? How are you walking around? You could meet people, you could meet 20 people a day that want to use your service. Imagine having the attitude of that parking attendant. Wow, I'm going to buy from you because I love your energy. I trust you. I'm going to remember you.
Yeah.
There's a when you have the right attitude, you're giving off this really nice vibration that people like and they want to be around. Uh-huh. So having that good attitude, it all starts with just seeing that vision of yourself, how you want to be. You can take that parking attendant, you can move him into a law office, you can move him, into, an accountant's office, and people are going to walk in and go, I like this guy.
Yeah. And it's just so fascinating, Fran. And I don't know if you know the student of Bob Proctor, David Nagel. Are you familiar with him?
I believe I've heard of him, yes.
Yeah, well, what's fascinating is his story was that he was in a down and out situation working in the docks, doing a job he, didn't really love at all. And he was just not having a good time at it. He was not making the money he wanted. He was not being successful. And he started to say to himself, what have I seen the most successful of my company, most successful person in my company do, which is the president, who actually started out where he was at one point. He had been the lowest job, and now he was the president. He said, what's different between him and I? And he noticed three things in particular. One, the guy he treated everyone with respect. He loved what he did, and he did it to the best of his ability. Mm-hmm. And then he looked at himself and he said, well, you know what? I hate what I do, and I show it. I don't do things to the best of my ability, and I treat people pretty badly because I'm like, I hate you and get out of my way. Mm-hmm. And so it reflected his experience. He said, you know what? I'm going to do an experiment. Next month, 30 days, I'm going to take the attitude that my president has. I'm going to walk around like I love this job. Mm-hmm. I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. I'm going to treat everyone with optimum respect. And I think it was 30 or maybe even 60 days, he got a raise that was triple.
Absolutely.
And then that was kind of what set him about, then working for Bob later on and such like that. But it's just amazing, the idea that three simple little mind shifts is really what it is. It was really something from inside of him that changed, not so much the outer stuff, because he was still doing the same work.
It was all his attitude. Yeah. And when you see something better in yourself, as soon as you see it, everybody else is going to see it. If you don't see it, nobody else is going to see it. So if you don't think you're a good salesperson, everybody's going to see that in you. They're going to see you as, oh, you're not a good salesperson. But if you see yourself as approachable and people want to be around you, they'll start seeing it. And it's the same when you look at other people. You can't see in other people what you first don't see in yourself. You have to see it in you first before you see it in other people. And that's a really, strong comment, because if you're looking at somebody and judging them, or there's something about them that you don't like, well, why are you so aware of that? Is there something in yourself you need to take a look at? And so when you start seeing the positive in everybody, and you're seeing the positive things, around you, that's when you know that you believe it in yourself as well. You see it in yourself as well.
Wow, Fran. This brings to mind one tremendous, wonderful boss I had many years ago who said to me, I see you want to go places in this company. I see your drive. But what's missing is that you're not paying attention to the people around you and how that they're an important element to your growth. And he said, how about you change your perspective? Because I was coming in, I was so focused on doing my work. I wore, actually at the time, I wore kind of younger clothes, he said I dressed kind of like a 14-year-old. I wore like bright makeup, glittery eyeshadow. He used to laugh at me and say, "Stop giving me the glittering eye." Yeah. He would say to me, seriously, Christina, if you want to work into this company as a manager, you're not going to be taken too seriously, dressed the way you are. And also, you're so focused on your work, you're not bringing people in and engaging them. Mm-hmm. So he said, here's my experiment or challenge for you. I want you to start dressing the part of who you want to be. Do you want to be management? You dress that part. And you be that part. I want you to come in, and what does a manager do? I come up to my staff every day. I say, "Good morning. How are you, Susan?" I engage them. I want you to do that for the next 30 days. And wow. So, I was really like, whoa. For one, I didn't even know there was a problem with the way I was being in the office. So that took me for a bit of a loop. But I went home that night, and I went directly to Macy's, and I bought myself 3 suits, a briefcase, and wow. I got my hair done. And I came in the next day, and I went to each coworker and said, "Hi, Susan. Hi, Lynette. Hi, Natalie. Hi, so-and-so. How are you today?" And they all looked at me like, who are you?
Who are you?
But, and then I started to...
That's excellent. And they probably thought...
Yeah?
They probably thought, oh, competition.
We're like, what? Who are you? But here's another, it's so cool that he put me up to this, because like within a month later, I was having lunch with all these people. We were best buddies. We were going out for cocktails on Friday. We were engaging and working together as a team. I mean, he accomplished so much, but more, he got me to see more in myself and got me to be and actually see myself in a leadership position because he put me on that challenge. And it was amazing. Just those couple of things he gave me to do as a challenge really transformed my working life.
And isn't that great that you brought him up? He's what a great leader. It's a quality in leadership that he saw in you, what you were capable of. And great leaders do that. They see in other people what they don't see in themselves. And he pointed it out to you. And the great thing here is, and this is what the big difference makes in anybody who's listening, you listen to him. See, we get advice all the time. We get information all the time, but we, kind of put up a wall and we say, oh, well, that doesn't apply to me. And well, I can't do that. And we push it away. And that should be your first signal that, for you to really change, start opening up your mind and letting the information in. And that's what you did. You opened up your mind and, you didn't stick your heels in the ground. I like to call it the stiletto heel syndrome, where you stick your stiletto heels in the ground and say, I'm not budging. You were totally open to it and said, you know what, I do want to move ahead. And thanks for seeing something in me. And then you ran with it. You went full board. So it was that effort was there, and that's where it stops for a lot of people. They hear the message, but they don't learn the message. You absorbed it, and you did something with it.
Now, this brings up a really, really good point, because you are a consultant and coach, and there's a lot of coaches who listen in. And I've heard it often say, hey, I went to this wonderful workshop, this wonderful weekend event, and the coach didn't help me because, look, I'm still where I am. And I think the hard part is you can have a tremendous weekend, feel so empowered. But how do you take the information and apply it and then run with it, as you said I did with my boss? How do you do that?
Well, the first thing you do is never point the finger. When you're pointing the finger at someone else for your results, right there, that's when you know that you're in the wrong frame of mind. It doesn't matter if you're going to a motivational event, a marketing event, whatever it is, go with an open mind and tell yourself you're going to come away with something. But if you're going to spend your whole time judging the person, how they talked, what they were wearing, who you were sitting beside, the food, and all you did was complain, that's your first sign that you're not going to learn anything, because you are in a negative state. You went in a negative state and you're not allowing anything in. Go with an open mind. So if you go with the open mind, you're going to start hearing more and you're going to start paying attention. Now, the thing about us is we're all programmed. We're programmed with our subconscious mind. And the only way to change that subconscious mind is through repetition. So we go to these marketing events, we get all hyped and we're like, that's it. When I get home, I'm starting this and I'm doing that. And for about a week, we're just crazy. And then the back talk starts coming back. And it's like, you know what? I don't know what made me think I could do that. And I don't have time to do that. And I don't have the energy to do that. And it goes right back to what is it that you want, and get that vision in your mind. And you have to start seeing yourself in that position, and you put that vision in your mind daily, in the morning, before you go to bed. See yourself until your subconscious mind starts believing it. Because you can go to as many events as you want. If you don't believe that you can become that person, anything you learn is going to be gone in a week. I've seen it. I've seen salespeople go quarterly events, rah, they're on the tables, and I just watch them and I go, you know that they're just going to go right back to their office and be the same way. And, you know, it's frustrating. But once they learn that until you change the belief in yourself, that motivation is not going to work. It may be temporary. I've seen a lot of people make temporary results, but it doesn't take long till they go right back to their selves again.
Now, I think, from what I'm gathering from what you're saying, belief plays a huge part in this, that you really truly have to believe from the core, your center, that you feel it, you breathe it, you taste it with every part of you, that you believe it. But that as well, to keep on target, you said something else about the, habits, that you often go back to what you're doing before. Now, is that also because it's more comfortable, because you're used to that? So you'll try on the new thing, it'll feel a little uncomfortable, and maybe you start to believe it, but then you go back because it's uncomfortable?
That's right. That's exactly it. We have this barrier that we have, and when we hit it, it doesn't feel good. In fact, your body actually has a reaction. Your nervous system reacts, and you don't feel good. Change doesn't feel good. We actually have a physical and mental reaction. So when you understand this, and you learn to see and feel when you're in that zone, I teach you how to walk through it. So it's like, oh, is that what's happening there? And then you go, well, okay, I'm just going to keep going. And a lot of people aren't aware of that uncomfortable feeling. You know, I use this a lot with salespeople that are going to phone somebody. They're going to cold call, or they know that all they have to do is call a person, but they get all nervous. You know, I can't pick up the phone and call a stranger. That's that fear that they can feel it. They start sweating, their hands are shaking, they're not comfortable talking to the client, and the client can feel it, and they lose the deal. But when they start off with seeing themselves in a conversation, laughing, and the person saying, you know, oh, it's so good to hear from you, their attitude changes. They start feeling better, and they make the call when they're in that positive state. I always say, if you're in that negative state, don't even dial the phone, because you've lost the deal before you even called. So don't even call. Don't even make the call. So it's the same way. It's a comfort zone. The comfort zone is not comfort. You are stuck. We call it comfort zone, but it's being complacent. And you want to learn to, whenever you feel uncomfortable, just know it and go, okay, I'm feeling uncomfortable. Own the feeling. Just say, wow, I'm feeling uncomfortable. That means I'm growing. And the good thing about stepping through something that you feel uncomfortable with, you won't go back to where you were before. You can't. It's like an elastic band when you stretch it. It won't go right back to where it was. You will actually have moved just a little bit out of your comfort zone. And then the next time you do it, it's going to feel easier, and you're just going to keep moving and moving and moving.
Yeah. Wow, I can totally see that. And when you mentioned prior about how we sometimes will go to events, and the moment you're in trouble, when you start looking at events and pointing the finger outward, well, that event didn't have good food, or this started late, or he didn't help me, because look where I am now still. And that got me to thinking about my first mentor I hired. She had pretty much said, you know, everyone who's worked with me has gotten back what they put in, and it was quite a bit I put in. And at the end of the road, I didn't get in or get out cash-wise what I put in. And so, you know, some of the people closest to me and even some coaches were like, whoa, you wasted your money. That was a waste of money. But then I started to reflect, and this is where you point the fingers back at yourself. I started to journal and reflect and say, why didn't it work for me? What part did I play in it not manifesting the way I wanted? And then I realized that my mindset pretty much going into hiring her was that she would be my saving grace. That, bam, I'm going to place this huge sum of money on the table, and I will come out Well, with a super successful business, making, $1 million or 100,000 or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I pretty much didn't have to do anything. It was all her magic working there. Mm-hmm. And really, if you had asked me when I got started, was I thinking this? No, it was more of a subconscious, like, you're my savior, my knight in shining armor. You're going to make everything better, and I'm just going to have a glorious business because I've worked with you. No, but seriously, that's really what was the essence of it. So honestly, that's why I didn't do well, and it wasn't her fault, but it wasn't until I could reflect deeply that I saw that was really the key core of what stopped me from doing better with her.
It's no different, and I'm sure people that are listening right now, people always ask, clients always say, do you offer a guarantee? Mm-hmm. Do you guarantee this is going to work? Well, no, but I can teach you how to do it. If you're going to do the work, I'll guarantee it'll work because I did it myself. So I can guarantee that I'll walk alongside with you and take you through it, but you're doing the work. There is no handoff in this world. You have to, everything's coming from inside of you, including receiving in this world. You can have things handed to you right now. You may have opportunities right now, but because you're blocking them and you don't know how to receive, because the belief you have in yourself that you're not worthy of anything, you may have missed 1 million opportunities to make $1 million. But you see, when you're open and you believe in yourself, you start letting things in. You learn to receive things, and you'll see a whole different world out there. There's so many opportunities that you wonder, there isn't enough time in this life for me to go after all these opportunities, because it's just amazing what's out there when you have that belief in yourself.
Wow. And it's so true. I mean, my mentor was at a fix at the end. She was very frustrated. And she said, here's the interesting thing. And people listening in might get this from their past coaching or even their present coaching. And that is, you did everything I told you. And you look like you did it to the fullest of your extent. But why didn't you have success? And really, it was that mindset I just told you about. If I thought that by simply doing the actions that she told me would give me the results, but then truly not believing in myself or open to receiving, it didn't matter if I did all the actions perfectly. I had to have the mindset and the belief behind it.
It was the same as your actor friend. You didn't become what she was teaching. It wasn't absorbed like an actor does. They become the part. And so the same thing when you go to a course, you must learn it, and learning is absorbing it. So it's a wonderful thing when you learn how important your mind is and how it's controlling everything you're doing. Did you drive to work today? Do you remember? Half the time you don't even remember driving to work because it's routine. When you look at your life that way, you'd be amazed how many decisions you're making every day without even thinking.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. We're on off position, aren't we, most of the time?
We are. Yeah, we're off.
But that's okay, because we can always choose to be more present. And interestingly, I think we talked, Fran, in our first conversation together several months back, that I do flying for fun, especially with my partner who is a pilot. And one of the things that drew me to flying, one, is to get over fear of flight. But the other was the fact that nothing caused me to be more present in this life than being in a cockpit. Especially when you're at the controls.
I bet. And it's funny you should bring up flying, because a lot of people, we say take control of your life like you're a jet, and you want to take control of the gears. You're in charge of that thing, and you don't, you want to soar.
Yeah.
So, to do that, you take control of all the panels and know what all the buttons mean. The same with your mind. You have to take control and know what all the buttons mean and which ones are going off and how to set them. But we are on autopilot. A lot of us are on autopilot, and it's time to flick that off and take control and start going where you want to go.
Yeah, start flying your plane.
Start flying.
Yes, and as one guest said to me recently, that really it starts with the core of understanding yourself. Where are you now? Where do you want to be? But like for me, what's been the tremendous gauge or understanding of that is really reflecting through journaling. And for me, that's been a great gift where I can really start to see things outside myself and see, where am I right now? Where's my mindset? What am I believing? Where are my feelings on a certain subject, which will often lead me to know where I believe or what I believe on something. All of that has been a tremendous gift or tool for me.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because your subconscious mind is in control of you, and we usually know what our beliefs are by how we're feeling. You know, what feelings are you having right now? Are you feeling good? Are you feeling bad? When you start paying attention to your feelings, that's when you know what's really deep and inside of you, what your true beliefs are. So if journaling works, that's an excellent way to discover it and pay attention, because that's the same as when you're in fear. You know, you're out of that comfort zone. It's a feeling. And that's what your beliefs are. That's what you're running on. And we run on our feelings all the time. Ask anybody who gets married and people say, why are you marrying that person? You know, if there's no logical explanation, the families, you know, are like, they see things differently, but we run on feelings.
Yeah.
So it's very deep.
Yeah, and it's often the reason you're either successful or why you even buy certain things, why you're even attracted to certain things. Much of the time, it's not a rational decision. It's totally based on your feelings. And, you know, it's amazing. That could be a whole other topic. But before we end out here, I don't want anyone leaving where they, you know, before they can find out more about you and where they can get your wonderful book.
Well, you can go to my website, dreampath.ca, or you can go to Your Life as a Movie, or you can just go to franbanting.com. I have a lot of different contacts, and you can follow me on Facebook and Twitter.
Yay. And why did you decide to, you know, kind of draw on the idea of your life as a movie? What drew you to that idea of using your life and thinking of it in the terms of a movie?
Well, my hobby and pastime is filmmaking. I actually took filmmaking for a few years, and I have my own editing equipment and film equipment. So I found that when I was talking to my clients and I was using analogies, I was always using movies and characters in movies. And, you know, see, that shows you how your inside comes out. It's what I believe in. I love movies. So in my work, it started coming out. It was just a passion of mine. And so I found that if I put it in a book, maybe it would be easier to explain. You know, I give it to my clients, and it's a lot of fun. It's just basically making a trailer of your affirmation so that you can watch it every day in your mind, and it, you know, helps you go towards your goals.
You betcha. Awesome. Well, everyone go to dreampath.ca today and get the book, Your Life as a Movie. And again, Fran, I want to thank you for coming to share your great wisdom and tips on Savvy Business Radio.
Thank you, Christina. It was fun.
Here's our interview with Saul Simon, author of Simon Says, Love Your Legacy. Hi, Saul. Welcome to Savvy Business Radio. How are you today?
I am excellent, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing fabulous, and I'm very happy to have you out here. You help people with personal wealth. You are a personal wealth advisor, and you help people really get a handle on building a legacy for when they leave this planet, that they have something to leave for their loved ones and such, and also being set here as they live on this planet. A very important thing I think we often don't think about long-term for our finances. One thing I talk to my clients about a lot, being that most of our listeners are service-based entrepreneurs and they depend on themselves and their few employees, I think this is a great topic. But before we get started, share with our audience how you got into this line of work and how exactly you help your clients.
So I'm a certified financial planner, and I'm in the industry 33 years. I also am an independent advisor, agnostic, licensed in insurance and investments, and I get to pick best of breed based on due diligence and listening to what the goals and objectives of a client's needs are. What I find with not only people and business owners are that everybody's in the process of accumulating wealth. People are starting to learn that we need to actually add an element of distribution of wealth with regards to taxes and taking required minimum distributions and determining when do I take Social Security. But more importantly, having a conversation up front with your children about your values from a holistic perspective. And in addition, to have the real conversation with family as to not only how much wealth are you going to receive, should you want to talk about the money, but more importantly, what are the roles and responsibilities? Who is the executor? Who is going to be the power of attorney or healthcare proxy? And do the children actually not only understand the roles and responsibilities, but more importantly, can they carry them out? And I'm proud that I was able to write a book, something I got to cross off my bucket list, which is educational. It's called Simon Says, Love Your Legacy, A Guide to Financial Education for You and Your Family. It's been a wonderful tool to create the dialogue with children and with family members and spouses and significant others with regards to understanding some of the basics when it comes to saving, budgeting, accumulating.
Absolutely. Saul, I mean, this is such an important topic. I mean, recently my mom passed away. It was very sad, but she did leave a will. And most of my siblings, including myself, because I've never dealt with wills and estates and that sort of thing. And she did leave an estate, some land, some house, property. And I've never dealt with that sort of thing. And we were all at a loss, like, how do we go forward? What do we do with this? And then, there was some fighting involved, even though the will said a certain something, and we didn't. Yeah. So it was not a fun time. And so I think this is a great topic. And I love that your book really opens up the conversation, because I think no other topic other than money really brings up this sense of guilt and shame and not wanting to really look at it honestly. And to protect your family and yourselves, it's really important to sit down and ask these questions and look at these important topics. So what have you found working with people that really people are uneducated about in particular? Is it, just wealth distribution? Is it just building of wealth, being honest about wealth, estate? Where have you found the most need for education?
That is a big question. So it depends on where someone is in their life. What I have stumbled upon is I'm a communicator, and I'm someone that really wants to get an understanding as to where someone is sitting, so I can see their life from their eyes and from their thoughts, and sometimes their feelings, and to ask those kind of questions. So coincidentally, I would start to have dialogue with their children, and we'd have a family meeting, a barbecue at the time of holidays, Thanksgiving, summer. And sometimes we talked about money, and sometimes we talked about concept. And in front of the parents, I got to quarterback a conversation with regards to the middle child. In this example, is going to be the executor. And the executor's role is to administer the estate and follow the wishes of the parents, and more importantly, the document called my last will and testament. And what we got to realize, we would watch, for example, the older child, because he or she's the older child, be upset. And his ego or her ego would get in the way of, what do you mean I'm not in charge and I'm not taking on those responsibilities? So I didn't even talk about money distribution. All I talked about was role and responsibilities, and the parents got to now observe an area that needs to be addressed and communicated about, number one. Number two, I educate people so they understand that when mom and dad passes a gift onto them, and they want not only the child to have that money, but also a grandchild, I explain that should you be married and you put the money in a joint account, it's half your spouse's. And sometimes, as I am a divorced father of 2 children, I need to educate to say, when mom and dad pass away and they give you a gift, as long as you leave it in your name, it's not available, attachable to your significant other, spouse, what have you, number one. And number two, it's education. So if we put a pool in the backyard, or we buy a bigger house, or we do a renovation, and the house is jointly titled between the child and spouse, it's half the spouses. And what's happened in doing so is, a large dialogue took place. And frankly, what's happened is many of the children have actually taken me into their confidence and ultimately have become clients, wanting an understanding as to how can they better and more efficiently manage money and accumulate money. When I see investment statements, I can literally count on a hand how many statements are like really good and I'm willing to bless. That means the fees are competitive. Means the allocation for the many different accounts that a client may have is in sync with the client's goals and objectives. And I am more of an educator so that the people are able to understand, as a compliment, and I'm just acknowledging the education that my partner David and I bring forth. When the markets are volatile, 6 months ago, the market swung about 1,000 points. I'm thankful that I received 2 phone calls out of the number of clients that we have. And I just wanted to reiterate and explain to them what was happening. And more importantly, I offer education so that the client can realize what's happening in the world should be looked upon as noise, that this too shall pass. And some of the methods we put in place due to such a low interest rate environment, these methods, this methodology of putting money into time frames, putting money into like buckets of money. Bucket 1 is 1 to 3 years. Bucket 2 is 4 to say 7, and then 8+ year money, so that you can choose to be a little bit more aggressive with bucket 2, bucket 3, because you've got disposable income, you've got cash, you've got emergency fund money in that bucket 1 for the next 3 or 4 years, which gives people peace of mind, and they can lay their head on their pillow at night and go to sleep. And more importantly, so can I.
Wow. And Saul, this is so important. I mean, I feel so blessed that my brother was left in charge of the executor for my mom's stuff because he handled it wonderfully. And I mean, people who think they want the responsibility of that, that's why I think these conversations are so important for all of your children to have with all of your children before your time of death. So there's not all that emotion tied to, the parent who's passed and you're dealing with the grief. You're not really in a good state of mind to begin with. You're very emotional. And then now you bring money into the whole sword. It just makes things really a mess sometimes. So what I really liked here that you just mentioned is that having people put aside their funds in a way that they now have disposable income so that they can actually rest and feel assured. And this is very important because I've talked to people who are stuck in maybe a really difficult job or the market has taken a downturn and they're forced to go into a situation or feel to go into a day-to-day job that they feel is draining them or really just awful for them, but they feel I have no other way to live. I need to take that paycheck because if I didn't have a paycheck right now, I'd probably just go one more paycheck and then I'm in the hole. And that's an awful way to be. Where do you start with someone who says, I have no disposable income? How do I even begin to get started with, say, time frame buckets of saving money? Where do you begin with?
Well, the first thing we need to do is look at their budget and look at their expenses. Do they have credit card debt? And how can we better or more efficiently manage that type of debt? There's 2 types of debt. There's good debt and there's bad debt. So every situation is different. There's no reason why we need to go out for dinner every night. There's no reason we have to go out and have drinks or alcohol. And there's ways of buckling down and really coming to terms with what's important and what are my goals and objectives. What am I trying to accomplish? One of the things I do is, for most business people and many of your listeners, for some reason, our mind clicks in at the end of September, October, in the beginning of October, that there's 3 months left of the calendar year, and we want to really turn on. We want to go out and have a great year, complete the year. We want to do certain things to finish off strong. Well, what if you took that mentality into your everyday life and turned on so that we created a 30-day, a 60-day, a 90-day game plan, and have a coach and have accountability. And if you say you're going to do certain things, you do it. It's like, it's integrity, It's keeping your word. And that may look like, similar to dieting and exercise. Well, those same principles you can apply to managing your money. Every single person, I don't care how wealthy someone is, they don't think they have enough money. Mm-hmm. And the wealthy people that I know wealthier people, and they think that they are still, quote, not necessarily wealthy. So anybody that has money coming into their pocket, they're receiving a paycheck, they're spending money on a credit card, they're spending funds, those kind of people need to have a financial coach. I've been told that I'm a life coach. I've been told that I'm their personal CFO. So you need to establish, it's so beneficial. It's like going to the doctor. You're getting a second opinion. Why not get opinions? Why not get insight from people who you can actually turn to and gain an understanding as to what is it that I can be doing that I can save money? And frankly, when I talk to people, I'm telling you, there's about 5 or 6 things in our brief conversation that I bring to their attention, and their eyebrow goes up and there's value received. It's about, like I wake up, it's about contribution and making a difference. And frankly, it doesn't have to do about business. It could just be helping someone out. Because very often, as I'm in the world, I consider myself to be a professional networker and or a connector. So if I'm able to connect people, if I'm able to make a difference and introduce someone that can make their life easier, satisfy something, question is, how can I help you? Can I help you?
Wow. And it's so important.
To just come around and answer that question, I'm sorry it was such a long answer, is you need to determine what is so important to you. You need to really, really look at what you're spending money on a weekly and monthly basis just to have it conscious, because then you look and you realize, wow, I didn't even realize I was spending that kind of money. Going to the ATM machine, every other day and grabbing $100, that adds up.
When you've worked with people, what is some of the things you've seen that you've been able to really help them change?
Yeah, it's just being able to have knowledge in certain areas. I have weaknesses. I'm not perfect in all areas, and I have coaches. I have people. I have a fitness trainer who keeps me on track and keeps my mind, strong and focused. So what do I tell people? I don't like paying income taxes to the IRS. So if you have a business owner or someone that's a service representative and they're receiving a 1099, they're able to establish a retirement plan. They can set up a SEP plan. Every single person should be putting away $5,500 into an IRA. And if you're over 50, you can add an extra $1,000 to make it $6,500. And these dollars that you're adding to retirement, you're getting a deduction. So Uncle Sam is saying, you can get a write-off and not have to pay income taxes on that deposit that you're looking to save for your future. And people may not be aware of this. I'm a big advocate. Chapter 1 of my book is pay yourself first. So when I get a paycheck, why not have X number of dollars automatically come out and fund my retirement plan, fund my children's 529 college savings plan, fund my savings so that I'm able to save for the future. Ideally, I would love people to save 20% of their paycheck, and I'd like them to have 50% of their paycheck go to their living expenses, and then the other 30% they get to enjoy and live a quality life. But if you don't start to take the money out before, it's going to go into your pocket. There's that hole in the pocket, and then it goes by.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that you say pay yourself first, and just to really make clear for folks that doesn't mean pay yourself for your fund money for the week. That can be part of the money you set aside, but really this is pay yourself for your future, putting aside a savings and different accounts that could be from different things, a vacation account, your 401k account, your whatever it might be, your investment account. But that's what you mean by pay yourself first, correct?
Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
And you mentioned something very important before, which I really loved, which is talking to your kids about what money means to you, the value of money and such. And I don't know about you, but I know for me, we never ever discussed money. It was a taboo subject. I don't know why it still is today, such a negative subject around it, but I love that you bring that up in your book. How can parents start to really bring this conversation up with their kids?
Personally, I've seen entitlement, like it's coming to people. And that kind of bothers me.
Yes.
So I come from a middle-class neighborhood. My parents taught me some good values and a good money skill set. Mm-hmm. So what I would do, and this has to do with factoring in how old is the child that you're speaking to. Mm-hmm. But, one of the chapters in my book, which I've caught some humor about, is do I give my child an allowance or not? Meaning, if you're living under my roof and I'm paying the bills and I'm feeding you, you need to do certain chores to help mommy and daddy out. Mm-hmm. Or I've heard people, if you get an A on a test or an A in a class, I'm going to give you an extra $50. So there's very different methodology of producing results for people, which ultimately people get to make the choices. Mm-hmm. But to explain to a child, when you take them on vacation or you buy them something from Disney or you go to Disneyland, Disney World, that costs money. Mm-hmm. And to show them that they can invest money in a stock like Disney, and they're starting to participate. Or I created something called a family 401k plan. Mm-hmm. So when a child receives a gift, what if the child saved 50%? You get $50 and you save 25. What if mom and dad gave an extra $5 or $10 or $20 to the 401k savings plan to teach that discipline, to teach that skill set to the child? So there's a lot of ways, and I touch upon them in my book under a couple chapters, of having this kind of conversation with your children. And for those listeners that are Prime members of Amazon, the Kindle version of my book is for free, or they can go on to Amazon. It's Simon Says Love Your Legacy. It's out there. It's education, and people should look at it. But if we don't teach our children and the next generation about budgeting, about paying ourselves first, about living within our means, mm-hmm. We're about to buy a big TV set. What's negative about having a family discussion? Mm-hmm. Just to reference, hey, all right, everybody wants a big TV. Let me tell you what it's going to cost. Mm-hmm. Let's go shop it. Let's go figure out where we can save, and do we buy it here, or here? And wow, look at the savings that we were able to create.
Yeah. So
that they're understanding. I go to the supermarket. You have one of those coupons or codes that you put in because you're like a value shopper, mm-hmm. and you save $11. Well, guess what? Why don't we take that $11 and put it into some savings account, because you would have spent it anyway.
Yeah.
So these are the skills and the dialogue that can't hurt to have mm-hmm. with nieces and nephews and children. And that goes for adults. I wrote an article about talking to your adult children. Maybe it's on the golf course, maybe it's on a train heading into New York, or just being together, having a mature, real-life conversation, and authentic.
Wow, this is such an important topic. We could talk for hours on just this topic alone. And the allowance thing, I've talked to a number of folks about how I feel about the younger generation thinking the sense of, well, I just deserve it because I'm here. And I think it's this kind of worker bee mentality, the go to a job, get a paycheck type of mentality that is detrimental to your financial health and wealth, where, okay, I got an allowance as a kid, so I just should get it just because I'm here and I'm alive and I'm breathing. And the same thing with going into work. I now work with huge corporations, helping them bring in more cash flow. And sometimes the issue is their resources, their employees, who think I just showed up, so I should get a paycheck. I even though I'm not working and I'm on Facebook and doing dilly-dally whatever, I deserve this paycheck. So I think you're right. This is an important topic to start having with your children so that we understand the importance and the respect and the responsibility of earning our own money and what that means and the satisfaction that comes from really putting your own effort and time into building your own wealth. I want to thank you again, Saul, for coming here. Please share with everyone again where they can find out more about you and your book.
So if anybody has a question, I offer the opportunity. It's 1-888-SIMON SAYS. Feel free to call me and say hi. 1-888-SIMON SAYS. You can go on Amazon and pick up Simon Says Love Your Legacy. And if you're a Prime member under the Amazon business model, my Kindle version is free. Go out, pay yourself first. Simon Says, pay yourself first, and take care of you, because no one's gonna take care of you.
Perfect way to end the show, and awesome advice. And thank you again, Saul, for coming here to share this valuable wisdom today on Savvy Business Radio.
Thank you very much, Christina. Have a great day.